I'm back. It's a tremendous Tuesday. We had a tremendous WWDC 21. So let's go ahead together as a people and check it out. Alright, so I am back to talk about my favorite things from WWDC 21. It was a very information-dense show, so I just wanted to go over the things that stood out to me really quick. But first we got to address the elephant in the room. So a lot of those predictions are not really my predictions, but the rumors that I read up on didn't end up being true. Only like the vague ones about iOS, basically the notifications, and then the Apple Watch and get some health stuff. But we did not see the new version of the M1 processor. We did not see HomePod get its own OS. So there was a lot of things that didn't come to fruition, but it was still an interesting show. I was worried in my Sunday video that the show might be boring, and it was interesting. I think like towards the end I kind of got bored, but I'm not a developer either, and that's really who that section was for. But let's go ahead and talk about the good things. So we're gonna hop off here with iOS because there's one thing that I want to talk about, and yes, FaceTime is coming to Android and Windows, kinda. So when I first saw that they were bringing some kind of FaceTime functionality to Android and Windows, I was like, that's really weird. But then I thought about it, and in reality, a lot of people during the pandemic were using Zoom because they can use it on multiple platforms. It wasn't as big of an issue. So basically, Apple is rolling out their own Zoom-like feature where you can schedule a meeting and then you can send a link to the FaceTime call to anybody. It doesn't matter if they're on Windows or if they're on Android, and they can just join via web browser. So that is going to roll out with iOS 15, and I thought it was like a little bit weird, but then I thought about how much traction they probably lost to Zoom versus FaceTime just because you can go across platforms. So this feature makes the most sense. So yes, FaceTime a little bit, kinda, very limited fashion is coming to Android, but you can't just call people. It has to be like scheduled as a meeting. You have to send them a shareable link so they can join via web browser. If you're the only person that has an iPhone and you have 5 friends who have Android phones, and then you're like, oh, I want to do this FaceTime meeting, they'll probably still just want to use Zoom because they probably already got it installed. So I don't really think it's going to be a Zoom replacement, probably in the way that Apple hopes for, but at least if it's like, you know, a mostly iOS/iPhone situation, and maybe one person that doesn't have an iPhone, you can still use FaceTime for at least for a scheduled call. So that's good. Another enhancement they're adding to FaceTime is basically they're making everything shareable, so you can share movies with supported apps. Of course, Apple TV Plus is going to work. They announced like Disney Plus and Hulu. I think there are a few others like Pluto TV was up there. But yeah, you can share movies. Like if you're on a FaceTime call, you start playing a movie, it'll play between both people so you can watch it. And then the same thing with music, like you can share music directly from Apple Music. They made a whole API dedicated to this feature so that they can get third parties to take advantage of it. But you know, it's Apple, they ain't gonna let them go too far. You know, when it starts cutting into their functionality, I'm like, hold on, nope, it ain't approved. The one cool thing that I'm looking forward to is the fact that you can just share your screen, because there's been a lot of times where I need to do like some kind of tech support and it'll be something super simple, but you're trying to explain it to them and you can't see what they're looking at, and now you can just do a FaceTime call and then have them share their screen. It'll make it a lot easier. So I am looking forward to that feature just from a techie standpoint. I might not use it all the time, but for support scenarios, if you're that person that has to do support, especially if it's, you know, someone with an iPhone or an iPad and you already have an iPhone or iPad, this might make it a lot easier. I'm glad that they're bringing this feature out. And also in combination with that, they basically are going to allow you to add backup emergency contacts. Like if you get locked out of your account, it does the verification code right now, and then you put the code in the device. But let's say if it's someone that's just not tech savvy, they get locked out, they don't understand how to do the verification code, they can select one of their backup contacts basically, and then the code will go to them and they can call that person to get the code. So again, stuff that's going to make my life easier from the standpoint of supporting people, I'm all for, and I'm super excited. One of the things that was true from the rumors is that they were going to be doing a lot with notifications, and we did see the feature where you can trigger certain notifications not to work during certain periods. They're calling it focus, and it also works with the widgets as well. Like if you use the widget that has the toggle where you can switch between different faces, so that one will only show relevant widgets to the apps that you're receiving notifications from. It'll also suggest automatic focuses based on what you're doing. So like if they see you have a daily routine, like let's say if you go on Facebook during this time of day, but you don't use any other apps, maybe while you're at work because you ain't doing your job right. And they'll suggest like, hey, do you want to create this focus while you're at work? And you can set it either on like location based, which I was hoping for, or during a specific period. So this could actually be useful. I personally don't use my phone that much outside of the house, aside from when I'm driving, because I have it on CarPlay. That sounded really bad, but I'm not actually on my phone. I just use it for CarPlay. It's not a feature for me, but I am glad that they're going to allow you to create location-based ones, and then ones based on time, and then automatically suggest new ones based on what you're doing, like based on your routine. The widget thing I was referring to earlier are the stack widgets, where you can kind of scroll through and you have multiple widgets. That's why I couldn't remember the name, but I remembered it because one of the things I think is cool is they're adding stacks to messages or iMessage. So basically, if someone sends you a bunch of photos, it'll show up as like a stack, and you can tap on it and see each photo individually, but it won't be like a bunch of photos just going through your iMessage anymore. It's gonna be all stacked up, baby, just like we need it. I don't know why I got excited about that. Some other minor things for iOS, well, iCloud in general, they're doing an iCloud Plus service that's gonna add more privacy and security for mail. The main takeaway from this, above anything else, was they tried to sell their VPN service. Like basically they're going to be doing like a VPN through Safari. So it's going to encrypt your traffic and send it through a server encrypted or whatever, so your ISP can't see what you're doing. But they made it seem like it was some kind of revolutionary feature. They called it the iCloud Private Relay. I already subscribed to a VPN and I already have the option to use it on my phone. So it's not amazing in that way. I mean, it's good in the fact that you don't have to set it up. So this feature is something you have to pay for because it's part of iCloud Plus. But it is cool that like if you are already paying for iCloud, then you'll just get this feature automatically. Like you don't have to worry about it as long as you use Safari. They did say it's Safari, so I'm guessing like if you use another browser like Chrome on your iPhone, it's probably not going to work. So of course that's a drawback versus just having a traditional VPN service that you pay for, where it's going to encrypt everything that comes out of your phone. One other cool thing I wanted to touch on is the live text and photos. Basically, you can take a picture and it'll recognize the text, and you can just copy and paste it and send it like normal text. Like it'll transcribe it from the picture. I don't know how well this will work, honestly. I mean, they made the demo look really good, but if you ever see my real life handwriting, it's trash. So I can't imagine like if I wrote stuff on a whiteboard, it'd be able to pick it up accurately. We had to see. The iPad does an okay job with the scribble thing. Whenever I've used it with the Apple Pencil, my handwriting is pretty trash. So I'm confident that the feature will work okay. I just don't think it'll work well in every scenario. The other thing that was kind of cool is like if there's like a phone number in the picture, it'll act like, it'll underline it like a link, and then you can just tap it to call it. That feature looks really cool. I'm interested to see how it looks in real life. Now, let me go to the most disappointing section, and that's the iPad, because I was really hoping with this new M1 chip that we would finally get some more Mac-like experiences, like some apps brought over. Guess what didn't happen? That didn't happen. But the multitasking, it does look a lot better. For one, you can pop out, like if you're reading an email and you're in split screen, you can pop out the message, and then if you want to read it later, you can move it down to the bottom, and it has this kind of shelf thing. So like let's say if you're doing that with notes and you have a note open and you want to save it for later, you can move it down to the shelf, and like while you're in that set up apps or while you're multitasking, it'll have like things that you've opened during that session that you can quickly go back to. So it's a lot better than what they had before, where they had like the weird side mini app that you could swipe over, and it would always just get weird and it was hard to get the app back on the screen. So the shelf thing seems like a much needed upgrade. Also, you can actually set up split windows from the task switcher, which is about time, because even that was annoying sometimes to try to set up like the two specific apps that you want. So hopefully this will make it easier to do the split screen apps on the iPad. The one thing I really am excited for, though, honestly, that seemed really stupid and they spent too much time on, is quick notes. So basically on iPad and on macOS, if you swipe up from the bottom right corner, it'll bring up like a quick note section, and you can either scribble or type notes in there based off of what you're doing. And apparently each app, like for instance, Safari will have its own quick notes but ultimately they all go back to the Notes app. And I actually use the Notes app a lot, like especially when I'm researching for videos. I'll just be on my phone and I'm like, okay, let me grab this URL and put it in my notes, and then I'll have a whole notes document that I use to reference back to, especially when I need to get links to add pictures of the stories and the videos. I just do all that in Notes. So I'm actually really excited about that. That's something I'll probably use. It's not coming to the iPhone, but it makes sense because it's a smaller screen. Like, it wouldn't make any sense to have like a small note in the corner be like this big. We're going to type up there. We're looking at it like this. But there was like a moment of reckoning that I had when they didn't announce any Mac apps for the iPad. The last thing they announced was that Swift was coming to iPad, so you can actually develop iPhone apps on the iPad. And I was like, oh, this is why they did the M1 iPad. Not because they wanted to bring Mac apps to the iPad finally, or the iPad Pro. I was like, this was the whole reason for developers. And that's fine. That's good. I just wanted something. I wanted a reason to upgrade my iPad. I'm just going to stick with my old crusty one because what's the point? Yeah, I'm excited for the multitasking stuff, but I was really hoping for a little bit more, but I had my expectations too high. And as predicted, another thing that came true from my predictions video, my dreams did get crushed, so yay. There's a couple other small things that I want to touch on. I wasn't really excited very much from watchOS or macOS. For watchOS, they're bringing the intercom feature where you can kind of intercom the whole household, like through the AirPods, to the Apple Watch. Also, if you have a supported doorbell, like a HomeKit supported doorbell, you can also see like a live doorbell feed if someone rings the doorbell from your watch, which I think is pretty cool. But I'm like, how is that battery life going to be though? Because my battery life be struggling on a daily. I'm going to keep it real. My Series 5 is struggling. So hopefully this Series 7 will get some better battery life to handle some of these new features. So on macOS, it's also getting a lot of the same features as the iPhone with the FaceTime and the shareable link and a lot of the iMessage features, as well as the iPad. Those are getting the same stuff as the iPhone. But macOS specifically, of course, is getting quick notes. The one thing that I found really cool was the universal control, where like it seemed like the device had to be nearby, like your iPad had to be nearby, but basically you could use your iPad, or not even iPad, you could use your Mac's mouse and keyboard and just kind of move directly over to the iPad like it was like a second monitor or something. Not even a second monitor, it's still a completely different operating system, but you can just move onto it like it's connected to the same computer. You could even do like an iPad, an iMac, and a MacBook beside each other. You can use the same mouse and keyboard to control all three of them, and it would just move across based on their orientation. So I'm wondering how it's doing this. Like, I wonder how close it has to be for it to work. But it seemed like a cool feature, like especially if you use your iPad and Mac a lot. You can just set them beside each other, and it's like, oh, well, now I want to do this on my Mac, and you can switch over really quick just by like moving your mouse over to that side, and then it switches over. The other thing that they announced for the Mac is they're bringing AirPlay to the Mac, so that way you can actually AirPlay from your phone to your Mac and watch content on a bigger screen, I guess, if you don't have a TV or don't want to use a TV. And I was thinking, I was like, I didn't even think about the fact that this wasn't a feature before. Because you would think, like, yeah, your Mac's more likely to be hooked up to a bigger monitor. Why can't you AirPlay stuff to it? But they're finally bringing that to Mac. And yeah, that's pretty much it for my favorite things from WWDC. Now, overall, I was hoping to at least see, like, the M1X or the M2, whatever they're going to call the chip. But I think this year, since the M1's already out there, they're probably going to keep it under wraps until they're ready to announce projects. Whereas last year, the M1 probably would have leaked if they hadn't announced it at WWDC because they had to send out those development kits. So it probably would have gotten out there anyway if they hadn't announced it. So I think that they will still have new MacBooks and iMacs this year. I just think they'll wait closer to release to announce it along with the new chip. Overall, the show was alright. It was pretty long. It's like almost 2 hours. So if you want to watch it, you can go ahead and watch it. But I'd say after like the iOS section, it gets less and less like entertaining because a lot of the features repeat through iOS and then iPad OS and Mac OS. So it's just kind of one of those things. But it was alright. It was alright. I overall enjoyed it, and I'm kind of excited to see iOS 15 and iPad OS 15 this fall. But let me know what you enjoyed from the show. Did I miss some of your favorite things? Let me know in the comments, and I'll be back, of course, on my normal Sensational Sunday. But until then, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and always do at least 2 things at the same time. Peace.